Good morning, good morning.
Hi.
So, we decided to do this. We decided to shoot this at what is it, Shenandoah
Crossing.
Crossing? Yeah. So, we're finishing up the vacay, and we decided, why not shoot it down here, before we happen to make our leg back home. So, like I said, once again, good morning, and this is Blue Talk episode 6. I am Cool Blue.
I am Lady Blue.
And this is the topic that we were speaking on this morning is understanding seasons. And this is my topic. And to get into understanding seasons, basically you have to understand, the periods of time that you go through in your life and understanding the positive and the negative and being able to recognize the positive and the negative and being able to see past the smoke and mirrors, because a lot of times we get caught up in our lives and our daily strides and advances, and when things go wrong, we tend to think that like we're the only people who go through these situations. You may be the only person around you in your circle that go through these particular situations, but you're not the only one in this life that goes through certain situations. And if you want to piggyback on that, you certainly can.
Yeah, I simply was gonna just kind of agree with what he was saying. I feel like seasons are things that we go through. We can have a season of prosperity, whereas though like everything you touch turns to gold, and you learning to do things and invest things in a correct way and things like that. And I feel like we also have seasons where I know personally I'm going through a season right now of learning to tame my temper with certain things. Like, I notice I keep being challenged in certain ways, whereas though I have to figure out if I'm going to react angry or if I'm going to take a step back, cool off, and then, proceed with it the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been noticing, like, the past few weeks, things that I've been going through directly is dealing with like my temper per se. So yeah.
Oh, okay. And I guess to be more transparent, um, I kind of have like a season. Well, I'm going through a season of transparency, and one, learning to get out of my own way, and two, learning to accept things that I can't personally change or understand initially. Because me personally, I get caught up in the factor of trying to make everything better. I've always been a person to try to make things right and try to make things better, or try to better the situation in general. And everything isn't necessarily in your control. And sometimes things happen, and it's like no matter how much you try to shape it, mold it, flip it, whatever the case may be, it's gonna be out of your control, and you kind of got to go with the flow of it. And that I'm learning to accept that more as an adult. So, but getting into one of the topics, the first out of the three is, why do they exist? Why do seasons exist? Seasons are a part of our life. It comes around full circle. You can't escape it. You can't avoid it. I mean, you can avoid it, but I mean, it would be detrimental
Yeah.
to your life. I mean, if you tried. One thing that kind of, as a matter of fact, you know what? I'm actually glad for the seasons, like, because, be it good or bad. I hate saying good or bad, be it positive or negative. It's a learning tool.
Yeah.
So,
Um yeah, I think seasons is definitely a learning tool and a part of everyday life, like, and you just have to sit back and sometimes look at it like in nature points it out perfectly. Like, you have fall, which is the time of harvest and joy and fatten up. And then it's like you have winter where things die off or things tend to slow down and rest and everything like that. Spring comes new life, growth. Birds are coming back from the south. Like, new beginnings. And then you come into the summer where it's just like it's warm. Everything is still growing. It's about fun. and then you get back into the fall where you harvest and you reap from the work that you put in from the spring and the new beginnings. So that's life. Like, there's birth, there's living your life, there's death, there's loss, there's new beginnings, there's new family. Like, everything happens for a reason, and it happens in a season. Like, it's just as simple as that. Like, general life points it out to you. And I feel like too, they exist because it's like, having a good thing for too long, you don't appreciate it.
True. Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, just having a good thing for too long, you don't appreciate it. Or if you don't experience loss, what do you learn?
True. Well, as far as like you were saying, as far as a good thing, a lot of times, like you said, people aren't necessarily appreciative until you go through some type of loss.
Yeah.
And I think the loss makes you, appreciate that much more than when you actually get back on your feet and you kind of see the personal strides and the gains. I mean, if you ever want to see it for yourself, that's kind of the reason why I watch so many documentaries. Because although we all go through life a smidgen bit different, like we all tend to have some of the same insecurities, some of the same pressures, some of the same fears, some of the same, like lessons and, we always hear people say, be your own individual, whatever the case may be. And that's fine and dandy. But, like you sit down in a room with people and it's like you start to open up and you start to tell some of your life stories and you start to realize, even though a person may be around you every day, and you could get into a room and start to hit on some real dialogue and you'll start to notice like, oh, hey, I was around you every day. I never knew you went through that. I never knew your grandmother went through this. I never knew your father came from this. I never knew your mother had to do this. Or I never knew that you suffered through this as a child, and it's when you start to open up and, feed that information that you start to realize like, hey, like, your seasons don't look too much different than the person who's next to you. So,
And you learn people wear a mask. Like,
very well.
The person that you are at work is not the person that you are around your home girls or your friends. Is not the person who you're around when you're around certain family members. So people wear masks and sometimes you gotta outgrow that mask.
Well, that kind of segues into our next topic, which is season of growth. This is the one that everybody loves to talk about, so I figure I'd do the good before the bad. Season of growth, progression, being able to see personal gains, personal growth. A lot of times, progression, can people want instant progression nowadays. Like I see with like even like the younger generation, it's like if it doesn't necessarily happen today, it doesn't necessarily work. And sometimes you have people who have that instant growth. It's like they're on it, they're persistent, things just so happen to fall into their lap, the stars align, whatever. But that's not necessarily the case for everyone. And you'll look at somebody else's story and you'll assume that your story is supposed to be the same exact way. And, your progression doesn't necessarily define the next person. And, like, you tend to, what they say, you never miss a good thing until it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you'll sit back and complain about, oh, I don't get it, I have kids and they're always doing this, they're always doing that. Or it's like, I'm at home and I'm this and I'm that, until you get a job where you're forced to be out, doing 12-hour, 13-hour days. And then you're not around your family as much. And you start to realize, like the laughs, the smiles, the, whatever the case may be. And it's like, people always put money as, growth. It's like your financial growth is the overall,
growth instead of just your personal growth. Like, you learning to balance your time between work and family, or
just enjoying life in general.
Yeah.
Like, like a lot of times we don't necessarily enjoy what's around us until it's gone. Like I was saying, you never miss a good thing until it's gone. But, you know, like family, family in more ways than one, like it becomes now a thing of like, oh, okay, like I have this, I have that. And it's like, there are people who pretty much don't have anyone, who pretty much kill to be in your situation.
Right.
And, like that puts you in a different, a different state of mind when you realize that, like you're one of the, I won't even say lucky ones, you're one of the blessed ones,
Yeah.
And a lot of times if you see it every day and you're around it, it's like, you don't necessarily pay attention to it as much. But like I said, kind of getting off topic, but season of growth, like knowing what's going on around you, seeing yourself progress mentally, some people physically, being able to appreciate that and accept it for what it is.
Definitely. Like I know with myself, I really have to slow down and realize like you've progressed more than what you realize. And I think I've been taking these past few weeks to just slow down and realize the progression. Like I'm actually in a season of growth. No, I may not have grown financially, or no, I'm not growing in certain other areas, but I'm growing as in consistency, like learning to make myself aware of we have to do this video every week, or just trying to post more and be more interactive and realize I have to put myself out there more. So I realize I am in a season of growth of just trying to be consistent and, constant, just always moving. So you have to just really realize, like, what are some things I'm doing better? Like, am I leaving out the house on time? Am I, sometimes it's the small things, like, if you leaving out early or on time, you maybe get more hours, or you may be making a better look at work. Like, you just never know. You're making a better impression.
You're not as rushed, like you were saying. Just to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, like you like getting up early in the morning, getting a shower, or you prepping yourself at night. You wake up in the morning, you feel more refreshed. You aren't necessarily off, because it's like you running late, and definitely like us being in the house, it's like you running late could, like, you might have misplaced a shoe, and now it's like that can pretty much spark up an unnecessary argument where it's like, I left my shoe over here last night. And so it's like being more balanced and being more focused and understanding these type of things, just like it just helps your day flow better.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of times, like certain things will happen, like I was saying, as far as like a shoe, it's like, oh God, this always happens to me in the morning. Like, why can't I be the person that's on time? Why can't I be the person that does this? And it's like you get mad at yourself, and then you get mad at the people around you. You go to work, you're upset. You go around your family members, you're upset.
You got a bad attitude.
You got a bad attitude, and then it's like it pretty much has a domino effect on the rest of your day. And I mean, you can change that, within time. But I mean, like just to say, what positive mind state, positive movement, positive, body, positive way of thinking, like, and it kind of, all,
goes in a positive way.
But this kind of into our last point of season of understanding. And the reason why I said season of understanding is that, like with personal growth and gain also comes loss. And with loss, it's not always a bad thing. People always see loss as, like, oh, the world has turned its back on me. No one sees my struggles. No one sees what I go through on a daily basis. I'm going through financial situations. I'm going through hardships. I'm getting arguments with my spouse, X, Y, and Z. And, like sometimes, like these things are not only meant to test you, but they're meant to move the needle and see whether or not you're actually going to react to it, or if you're going to stay, stagnant in that one place. Because it's like, those who are believers, sometimes you'll ask God for certain things, and it's like, God, why isn't this happening? God, why isn't that happening? And then it's like, you'll look up, and it's like, you're trying to move the needle, but you're trying to be stagnant while trying to move the needle. It's like, it doesn't happen that way. And it's like, it might be certain people in your life. It might be certain habits that you have that you're not willing to change. It might be certain places that you go that you probably shouldn't be anymore. It, like, you know, things like that. And a lot of times people don't necessarily see that. You want to, in a sense, have your cake and eat it too.
I was about to say with progression and personal growth and gain, sometimes you have to drop like going out every weekend, or sacrifice staying up all night, whatever you're doing. Like, don't matter. But
oh my God, I'm about to say, and I can personally attest to that. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. But yeah, just like sometimes you just gotta sacrifice a couple of things or a couple of people, and not sacrifice like you throwing them in the fire, but like sometimes your relationship dies off because you're not doing certain things or going certain places anymore. And it's not a bad thing. It's just that right now you two do not, or you all don't share the same interests, and it's better for both of you to go different directions versus trying to force something that's not going to work.
Yeah, and then people oftentimes say, well, like, you've changed or whatever the case may be. Yeah, you're supposed to. I'm about to say, like, there's no reason why you should have the same mindset at 25 that you have at 35. There's no reason why you should have, like, morals, principles, values, like things that you were taught. Okay, cool. But it's like, to build on that and still feel the same exact way that you felt at 25 towards a situation versus the way you felt at 35 or 45, it's stagnant. Like, and it'll eventually tell the tale. Like when you're in certain rooms, when you're around certain people, like the conversation will be different, the body language will be different. You walk into a room and people don't necessarily want to be around you. That's a telltale. You walk into the room and it's like everybody like wants to be in your presence. Like, like stuff happened with like me and her, like, what was it, yesterday? Like, by us just kind of being who we were, like, it was just like, we walked into a room and the guy was like, like, here, like, take this. Like, you guys have such good energy. We were at, the Hot Cake spot?
Yeah, Hot Cakes in Charlottesville.
In Charlottesville. Shout out to Hot Cakes. And, like, by us kind of having the energy that we had and, like, just the presence, it was like, the energy was receptive and the guy just was like, hey, like, here you go. Like, like whatever the case may be. Like, so it just in the love that you get just by having that positive outlook and being optimistic with certain things, like it comes around full circle. And like even in having a bad season or or having a negative season, you can be positive. And like even when it seems like everything is necessarily going against you, that your mindset has the ability to change the outcome itself. Like you might think that everything's going bad against you and you might say like, all right, I might as well join the club. And you start beating down on yourself. You start taking all the negative comments and.
And when you have too many people who you kind of like, they kind of negative or whatever, and they starting to crowd around you, I always think of misery loves company. So if you're losing a couple of people, maybe it's because you're not miserable anymore. Like just don't always look at loss as a bad thing. Don't be like, oh yeah, I'm just cutting people off left and right. No, it's not like that. But like, if you notice you're making a positive change and that friend is kind of like, I'm not into it or whatever else, or they're kind of like just giving little jabs and stuff along the way, it might just be like, maybe I need to slow down on how much I tell about certain things or how much I hang out. Cause you just never know. Some people just not ready to see you or themselves in that going on to the next level. So
yeah, I'm sorry, I'm gonna cut you off.
No. That's a good point.
Yeah, I'm about to say a lot of people aren't ready to see themselves in that light, and like. It's like I said, your season might be a little bit further ahead, or like the way that you see things and the way that you view things might, be 2 steps ahead. And it's nothing wrong. It's nothing wrong with that. It's just that, you got to accept it for what it is, understand it, and keep it pushing. And like I said, it ain't necessarily to say you cutting everybody off, like she said, but when you understand it for what it is, you kind of got to,
Yeah. Well, we're going to let y'all go because this is a little longer than what we normally do.
Oh, yeah, I'm about to say. Ooh.
So I hope you enjoy the season that you're in, learn from the season that you're in, and continue to grow.
Speaking of consistency, we 6 weeks in.
Yay.
So I'm about to say, speaking of consistency, and we almost didn't shoot this video. We were enjoying vacation a little too much, and I was like, I don't think we shot the episode
At all.
Oh, shout out to Hannah and Matt, right?
Oh yeah, shout out to Hannah and Matt. There's some friends that we met here. They showed us around Charlottesville a little bit yesterday. We staying in Shenandoah Crossing, which is in Gordonsville, Virginia, but it ain't that much out here, so you gotta go to Charlottesville for some stuff. And it actually was a really nice city.
I would say the food was amazing.
Oh my goodness.
I would say the food was amazing. Charlottesville, y'all definitely. I take my hat. I definitely take my hat off to y'all. The food was amazing.
I hope y'all saw my Insta story yesterday.
My Insta story is safe. I'm about to say, I told you everything.
I hope I gotta highlight my stuff after this.
Everything is highlighted.
I gotta highlight my stuff so that way y'all can see. We went to this place called Jack Brown's Beer Burgers. I finally had a burger with a donut bun. So good. But anyway, like I said, we're gonna go ahead and get out of your way.
And plus we gotta get on the road soon anyway, so
yeah. So I like y'all.
I like you.
And we'll see y'all soon.